We're at the 2009 BookExpo America Booksellers Convention at the Javits Center in New York City. We're at the booth of Bloomsbury and Walker Books, the family of books, and I'm here with Peter Miller of Bloomsbury Books. Peter, what do you have coming out this fall?
Well, the most ambitious and exciting book is the one that's over my shoulder, which is Logic Comics. It's a graphic novel. We don't normally publish graphic novels, but we decided to do this one because it's a historical biography of Bertrand Russell. And as crazy as that sounds, it's actually an interesting novel of ideas. And the two people who are behind it are mathematicians and computer science experts. And so they decided to sort of approach the idea of the foundation of mathematics and the life of Bertrand Russell as told in a comic book form. Because for them, a big idea like that of what Bertrand Russell was pursuing was actually as heroic and as life and death as anything you find in a superhero tale. And so it's a book that's been getting a lot of attention before this convention and a lot here. We've been giving a lot of the galley, and just everybody seems to be very excited to embrace this medium for that particular subject.
What else do you have coming out?
The other interesting sort of work of nonfiction in the fall is this book called The Age of Comfort by Joan Dijon, and she is a scholar who has sort of who takes a look at the period in the late 17th century when public life became sort of interiorized, and places like Versailles, which is Louis XIV's great creation, was not built for comfort at all. It was built for enormous splendor and sort of public events and grandeur. But these were not private spaces at all. This was all meant to be lived in the open. And after Louis XIV dies and his son takes over, Louis XV, there's a movement afoot because new technologies are coming in and domestic life is changing, that suddenly things are starting to be designed around the idea of comfort. And everything starts to get turned into a sort of a secondary private area, and Versailles is sort of the perfect metaphor for that because it's all retrofitted by Louis XV and his mistresses and the women in his court who create two worlds, of the world that the public sees and the world behind. And things are introduced such as the sofa and the flush toilet, the private bedroom. Suddenly with that comes the idea of having a private life versus a public one. So this is a really important work of scholarship that tells in a completely new way. It's not just a book about design, but an important moment in European history.
This is the 10th anniversary of Bloomsbury USA, and Bloomsbury Books was originally based, or still based, in the UK. What was the decision to start up an imprint here in the US?
Well, I think that at that point that they were growing significantly in the UK and felt like they needed an American presence, and we didn't want to just sell the rights to a lot of their books to publishers in the US. And the US is one of the largest markets in the world for book publishing, so they were taking that next step. They were the publisher of Harry Potter in the UK, so I think they took that opportunity and established a foothold here in a very small way 10 years ago, and now it's grown considerably. And George Gibson, who is the publisher of Walker, can talk about the various, how it's expanded in those 10 years and all the different divisions that it now encompasses.
Also joining us is Peter Ginna, publisher from Bloomsbury Press, borrowing off the Bloomsbury name. What is the difference between Bloomsbury Press and Bloomsbury USA?
Bloomsbury Press is a small imprint that's devoted entirely to serious nonfiction. We do a lot of history, politics, biography, current events, economics, science, and that kind of thing. So it's much less general and more focused than the Bloomsbury list, which is a general audience, general interest kind of list.
Peter, what do you have coming out this fall you're excited about?
One book I'm excited about is this one called Half Moon. Henry Hudson and the Voyage that redrew the map of the New World. This September is the 400th anniversary of Hudson's discovery of the river that bears his name and his exploration of New York Harbor. And that was an adventure that really changed the course of history in North America. It was a very daring voyage for a lot of reasons, the first one being that he was supposed to be going completely in the other direction. He had been commissioned to sail to China over the northern coast of Russia, and he sort of took a left turn and came to North America instead, which led him to his discoveries here and his exploration of the river. The author, Doug Hunter, is a terrific writer and researcher, and also he's a sailor, so he's done his own kind of forensic navigation and redrawn the map, the plots of Hudson's voyage to sort of give us new insights into what that trip was really about.
Finally, we're joined by George Gibson, publisher, director of Walker Books. George, Walker Books is celebrating its 50th anniversary. What is Walker Books, and who's the founder of Walker Books?
Walker & Company is a division of Bloomsbury USA. It was founded in 1959 by Sam and Beth Walker. It was a completely independent company until January 1st of 2005 when we were acquired by Bloomsbury. So we're now a division of Bloomsbury along with Bloomsbury Press and the main Bloomsbury division, the 3 adult divisions of Bloomsbury, and we're one of them.
You say you're the publisher director. How long have you been with Walker Books?
I've been with Walker since 1993 as the publisher of Walker, and then I became the publishing director of Bloomsbury USA last summer. So that's a much more recent development, but I've been involved with Walker for the past, God, what is it now? 15 years, 16 years. Wow.
So what books are you excited about this fall?
A couple of Walker books. A book called An Artist in Treason by a man named Andrew Linklater, who wrote called Measuring America for us a few years ago. That was a pretty big success, and it's the story of the greatest traitor in American history, but a wonderfully complex man named James Wilkinson, who was a Revolutionary War hero, youngest general in the Continental Army, who became the leading general in the American Army 15 years later, at the same time as he became Agent 13 in the Spanish Secret Service and was a spy for Spain for the next 20 years, at the same time as he led the American Army. But the amazing thing was every president he worked for, Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, all knew that he was a traitor, and they kept him in his position for very strategic reasons. And it's a fascinating, untold story and unknown life. That, and then another biography of an unknown but fascinating figure in history, Joanna, Queen of Naples, Sicily, and Jerusalem. The only queen, the only woman to rule in her own name in the 14th century. She was every bit as dynamic a ruler as Elizabeth I of England, ruled over a glittering court in Naples at an incredibly turbulent time. And it's a very revealing look at the 14th century through the lens of her life.
Finally, you have something out of your catalog that you wanted to show us coming out this fall.
Actually, on the Bloomsbury list, a book called Meltdown Iceland that I think is going to be a fascinating way into the economic crisis that hit us last year. This is the story of the meltdown of Iceland, the economic collapse of the country. And we will publish it on the one-year anniversary of that collapse, October the 7th. And it is a fascinating inside story of greed, overreach. All of the things that happen in this country happen in Iceland, but they're understandable in microcosm. And I think that's what's going to make this story so fascinating.
George, you said you've been with Walker since 1993. How has the publishing industry changed since then?
Wow. Well, it's changed in almost every way, and yet it hasn't. I mean, I'd make that. It sounds contradictory, but the marketplace has changed enormously. Obviously, in 1993, even the chains were not nearly as dominant as they are. Amazon hadn't even been invented. So the price clubs and warehouse clubs and the airport shops that sell so many books today sold practically none. So the number of outlets for books has multiplied geometrically in the last 15 years. In terms of publishing, it is still all about getting good writers to do good work, and then finding media outlets for them. The media has changed a lot, and particularly in the last 5 years, as you know, there are fewer outlets for print reviews. The classical ways of promoting books have really declined, but now there are all sorts of opportunities on the internet that all publishers need to learn how to use. The whole viral network, social networking. It's a brave new world for publishers, and we are all fast having to get used to it.
Would the Walkers recognize their publishing company today?
That's a good question. Beth Walker is still very much alive and follows it. So yes, Sam passed away a number of years ago. I think he would have had trouble in this world. I mean, I just think it is a very different world than the one he inhabited. But Beth actually is quite fluent in the new technologies, and so I think she's rather enjoying it.
You were joined by Peter Miller, Peter Ginna, and George Gibson from the Bloomsbury Walker family of books. Thanks.
Thank you very much, please.